Welcome Traveler, I'm Free2Play and I'm your guide for a successful free-to-play adventure on Ostera. Today I'll guide you through the best story of all Chapter 3, spoiler free. So with the newest update we can watch 10 times the Cait ads to get a Cerna a bit earlier if we decide to get her in the first place, or if you get lucky getting elite fragments. I didn't get even one in the first 5 rounds, but I got a few rubies, so this is fine here. But let's continue our quest to get the greater power, and just by talking to this NPC we just solved this quest and we get a few historic materials and the silver guide stones, but we don't need those. We need 900 memory charts to get the best 4-star A4s here. And taking a look at the soul chart exchange, we now got the War Soul box, which contains every unit Soul of War except for the BD collab, and we get the Gold Soul box where there are also new souls contained, but I will talk about them later. And there's also a silver box, but yeah, not that interesting. And we can finally exchange the not needed souls from the Fortunes board game, so this is just amazing. And while being at the historic fragment exchange, we can now use 2,500 of them to get every A4 accessible except for Cerna. And for 12,000 wealth we get Triss, for 24,000 we get Sigrid and Kurtz, and for another 24,000 we get Noelles and Minas. And then we're going to awaken a lot of characters. Kurtz is one of the best. I equip it directly onto Primrose so that Spell Song is lasting 3 rounds and not 2. And keep in mind that those A4s can't be stacked. And I tried to get Rondo and I got a famed traveler, but it was not Rondo. It was another famous memory traveler. Okay, no Rondo for me, but it's fine. So let's continue with our main quest. We are entering a real huge tower and it has 6 floors, and I will go through every specific floor with every relevant items here to get, or enemies to defeat. And in the first floor we have an enemy here, the menacing Cursed Flame Guardian, which does not hit hard but can't also be hit hard from elemental attacks even when he's in breaks, so you can only damage him with stuff and tome. And that's why I fled this battle, and I will return with Yanlong sometime. If you take this little passage here and go to the right, you come to a chest which is hidden behind the ropes, and it contains 1 soul crystal L. But that's all we get for floor 1. We come to floor 2 right now. And here we have the Fallen Adora's Defender, which is having these weaknesses and can hit very hard, but he shouldn't be any problem for you at all. And these new elites only drop Golden Sun Souls, very amazing. Right next to him we follow the passage and then we go to the left and there's a chest containing first Thorned weapon. And then there's this dark mist like in the last chapters. We have to go to the Remembrance Hall and just touch this little object here in the right corner. Almost all NPCs on this chapter don't have special abilities here apart from Adora's Executioner. I really like this ally because it has a very high chance to inflict bleeding, which could come in handy for the upcoming battle in a few minutes. He also has the second Thorned weapon we can acquire from now on. After a little cutscene we can enter this warp gate here, and we can travel back and forth to the living world and hell. And later we can choose which Remembrance Hall we want to get to. So if you missed something, you can always return to that spot. So after a little glitchy run here, we return to the mist and then it's gone. So let's enter floor 3. Where we just go downstairs to get to the next floor, follow the path, and then we can get another Thorned Halberd, and we have a 2x polearm on all enemies, which is very great. And these are some of the weaknesses of these enemies. Taking the first door to the left leads you to this chest containing a Thorned Hell Tome, and that's about it. We go to the 4th floor where the Dark Mist is to the right, and the room to the left contains an NPC which has a very special item. It's called the Blood-Soaked Cup, and it works like Kota's right glove, but for elemental attacks. So amazing. If we take the steps down and go to the left, we come to another chest containing 3 shiny Lively Soul. And if we take the steps up to the left again, we'll see another elite which has these weaknesses, who can heal his wounds. And oh my god, Dirge of Dusk just looks amazing here. You also get new Soul of War from this. The next Hall of Remembrance has mass steel defenses as an ally, which is not so great. And that one we can't even guide with us. And in that house behind her is a chest chest which contains 3 Darkbreath Soul. After you got rid of the mist again, you get to the 5th floor. So we're almost on top now. And if you take the door to the right, you get to another elite which looks very terrifying and has these weaknesses here, but is not hitting as hard, but can inflict poison, which can take you down very quickly, but you should be able to deal with them. And another Gold Sun Soul, amazing. If you go to the top, you have the 2 treasure chests containing a few more gold souls. And if you go all the way down and right, you can take the steps to the 6th floor, but it's only containing 2 rooms, and one of them there's a very special item, the Tears of Hope, and that one works exactly like the Proof of Valor, but gives 20 SP additionally, which will come in handy in the next battle. If you go back and left before the steps, you can enter a room which also has a stair. You can get to that treasure chest here, which contains 3 Soul Crystal L. And if you walk down again and to the left, you will see our last elite of this chapter, which has these weaknesses and is really not hitting hard and can restore a few shields by himself, but has a hard-hitting deadly slash. But you should do fine here. So the last Remembrance Hall awaits, and I won't spoil who that is, but the ally skill is amazing. Deals light damage to all foes and restores the HP of the entire front row with potency of 140, which is really huge. And these are some of the weaknesses I have discovered. After that, return and go to the upper left and clear the last dark mist you have to reach the 6th floor again, but containing a sacred flame, whatever this is doing here. There is no new town, so we just go back to Hell Crackspear and get our new weapons and equipments, because we have access to a lot of resources now. And these thorned weapons have access to 2 Sun Souls, 1 silver and 1 gold, so you can reach 56% additional damage to Hellfiend, which is really amazing. So maybe you should upgrade your hollow weapons right now. So I made a team to counter the first opponent we're facing, which has dark and polearm weakness. And that's the only weakness I will trigger. And I also had Eliza with me to boost Primrose's damage, Alfin to get the regen onto the front row, apart from stats Medica, which is only lasting for 2 turns. And I had Nicola to give SP back to the full front row if it is needed. But I have to say right now that this was a mistake. You should change Alfin and Nicola with Varkin and Hasumi if you have them, because then the next battle will be a lot easier. Gilderoy is tanking the most damage with the 4-star A4s we got, so that he gets 25% passive defense up, which is just amazing, and his Fortune Lance just gives him tons of physical defense. So he can just tank everything, but you have to keep an eye on the group, because as you have seen here, there will be coming more AoEs from the enemy. So before the break, I go for a Verse of Valor to get everyone's elemental attack up, and Lynette will come to the front to boost this even more, and I use the Dark Scar to have the bleeding effect, so that Stat and Jilmela will do even more damage here, which could also be inflicted by a lot of allies, but I forgot to use them. I'm so used to Master Towers and arena fights, so I'm really satisfied here with the damage, but it would be better if I had the bleeding from the start, and maybe having the spell song here at max would help too, to maybe beat this opponent at the end of break 1, which would be way better, because you will go into the next battle right afterwards without any rest. The Wild 6-fold slice is slicing 6 times, but not really hard, as you have seen here. If your Gilderoy is just so prepared as mine was here for the attack, it would be really destructive otherwise if you don't have any provoke here. So you have to keep in mind to have your provoke on every time. So after the first break, he goes to 99 shields. So you have to break this much shields, or you do enough damage with all the skills you have done. And that's why I told you it would be better to have a very efficient first break and just do whatever you can before entering the break. It's really low on HP, but I don't want it to use its ultimate, so I just went for max attacks here and for the Child of the Dance to even improve the damage output here, which was enough. Gladly, I don't know how strong this attack would have been, and I didn't want to find it out in the first place. Right after that, we go into the next battle where darkness is no matter right now. And this opponent is always switching between weaknesses, but there is one weakness which is always there. It's light. So having a dark light team would be preferred here. You have help all the time of another comrade here, which is buffing you and damaging the opponent, and has a wonderful AI, so it will not do the break for you. And if you're low on HP, you will be healed. If you don't have regen up, you get regens, and you get dark resistant, which is good for this opponent. But you have to know that there are not only dark attacks coming, there's also a wind attack coming, which hits very hard, and another wind attack which hits even harder. So having Theo with you to increase the wind resistance would be a really good idea here, because this opponent also has the axe weakness, sometimes as seen here. So breaking with Lynette Bemusing Strut is always a good idea if it's possible, because of the elemental defense down, which can be kept with Primrose Spell Song to make your light attacks even more efficient. I tell you this now because if you want to repeat this battle and just want to use another team composition, then I must disappoint you. You will end up having the same fight again, and getting a game over is nearly impossible at the first stage of this battle, because of its attack being so weak. So after the first break, the Flood of Despair is coming, which is not as hard hitting, but the combination of not being able to switch and the weakness effect, which lowers the SP per round, is really nerve-wracking, and she will cast that skill on all your other units as the battle continues. Know Your Place is hitting 2 times AoE and then afterwards a dark AoE, but all of them are not as strong. But the Unbending Blade of Absolute is very strong, so having Wi-Fi with you, maybe on Ophelia, would be also great here sometimes. This is the first battle I know where Divine Sword of the Flame is hitting both weaknesses at the same time, but only in this certain situation with the weaknesses right now. On Your Knees is an even stronger AoE, and it causes dread, bleeding, SP set, and you can't switch. And Ribbon of Restraint paralyzes units for 3 rounds. So there are a lot of attacks which really harm you, and you should really prepare for that. But I think now you know what's coming, and you can earn your Influence All 340, which is guaranteed to rank you up somewhere. So here's the team composition of the team I used at the end, and as you can see, Gilderoy is not even level 100, and he's so tanky with that Lance of Fortune. Primrose Waltz 3 is always a good idea here to buff the physical defense, because the last enemy had so powerful physical attacks, but also very powerful wind AoEs at the end, which harms your group so much. So I would suggest you to buff your group as hard as possible before aiming to get as much damage as possible. Apart from that, you should equip the Tears of Hope and the Proof of Valor on your tank and on your light unit, who does the most damage and is in the front most of the time. For me it was Eliza, who had the Sword of Fortune with a very powerful elemental attack boost, so it is now possible to boost Eliza's, Soleil's and Varkin's damage, so you have enough light units to take into this battle. Hasumi had her Soul of War before, and I would so recommend to have her with you because of her Guardian Bolero. Together with the Waltz 3 from Primrose, it is a perfect addition, and Blooming Ballad is also a very good skill to have enough SP because they get drained so fast. Apart from that, that was my favorite chapter of all chapters. Even the Master of Fame was not as marvelous as this chapter. I was so hyped to play it, and I hope you can enjoy it as I did with this team composition to finally beat the last enemies in front of you and get any item you wanted from this chapter. And if you have any more questions, don't hesitate to ask in the comments or on my Discord group. Thanks for watching, you're free to play.